All right, guys. So we have a new news to you story for this week. And the name of our story is Greta Thunberg and Earth. So, before we start reading any story, we look at our communication board. So, this would be a great time to pause the video. And whoever you're working with, please take the time to look at all of these different symbols on our communication board. All right, so the title of our story this week, like I said, is Greta Thunberg and Earth. So, by looking at these pictures, what do you think our story will be about? I know before school ended, we were talking about weather. So, maybe she might be talking about weather. Here I see different people. I see the Earth. I see some numbers, but I don't know what they mean. Maybe it's a date because I have a calendar here. I see change. That was in our last story. Change. This is stop. There are so many different symbols here. So maybe once we start reading, we'll get a better understanding of what our story will be about. All right, so if you have printed this document, we're going to turn to page 1. So make sure that your page looks just like mine. Find that number 1. All right, and so what are we reading about? What are we reading about? And this is our title. The title tells us the what. And so again, the name of our story this week is Greta Thunberg and Earth. And this story was published on April 13th, 2020. People celebrate protecting Earth on Earth Day. Earth Day is April 22nd. Let's turn to page 2. Make sure your page looks like mine. I'm on page 2 here at the bottom. Greta Thunberg wants to protect Earth. Greta was born in Sweden. She has autism. So what does she want to do? Let's go back to our communication board. She wants to protect the Earth, right? All right. Page 3. Make sure your page looks just like mine. Find the number 3. Greta gives speeches about climate change. Climate is the usual weather in a place. Climate change could be dangerous for Earth. So if you looked at the content lesson for last week, our science lesson was on weather and climate. So these words may be familiar to you if you were able to access that lesson. All right, we're going to turn the page, page 4. Greta Thunberg has ideas to protect Earth. She thinks everyone can help. Protecting Earth is important to Greta. All right, so let's go back and let's review what we read about. So remember, what was our story about? Greta Thunberg and Earth. And so our first page tells us that Earth Day is on April 22nd, and people are going to celebrate protecting the Earth on that day. And so they told us about a specific person. Her name is Greta. And Greta wants to protect the Earth. She was born in Sweden and she was diagnosed with autism. And some of our friends are diagnosed with autism as well. Greta gives speeches about climate change, and climate change can be very dangerous for the Earth. And our last page talks about the different ideas that Greta has, and that she thinks that all of us can do our job to help. And this is very important to Greta. All right, so let's look at our game page. Okie dokie. So our directions say choose the pictures about Greta Thunberg and Earth. So our first picture is soldier. So if we go to our communication board, do you see a soldier on our board? I do not see one. So that means a soldier was not in our story. So I'm going to take my writing utensil or whatever writing tool you have, and I'm going to put an X over soldier. All right, let's look at our second picture, climate change. Climate change. So let's look at our communication board. Here is climate change, and that was definitely in our story because I remember reading about it. So I'm going to take my writing tool again. It doesn't matter what you have, pencil, pen, crayon, marker, whatever you are comfortable with using. And I'm going to circle climate change because that was in our story. Our next picture is sleep. And I don't remember our story referring to sleep, but let's look at our communication board. If I'm using my eyes to look, I'm looking for sleep and I don't see it, so therefore it was not in our story. We're going to put an X on that. Great. Okay, now our next picture is Earth. And this one is a pretty easy one because the name of our story was Greta Thunberg and Earth. But let's go back and look at that communication board. I'm looking. Oh, here's the Earth. And our story talked about Earth Day. So we're going to circle that. All right, our next word is important. Important. Let's see. Do we see it on our communication board? Here it is right here. Important. So I'm going to go and circle that with my writing tool. And we have one more word, and our last word is protect. We're going to go back to that communication board. We're going to look for protect. I'm using my eyes to look at all of these symbols. Oh, here it is right here, protect. So we're going to go back to that game page and circle protect. So let's review this. The pictures that were in our story, Greta Thunberg and Earth, were climate change, Earth, important, and protect. We did not read about any soldiers, and we did not read about sleep. All right, let's look at our review page. And so, you know that Miss Banky likes to cover up the extra questions that we don't need. All right. So make sure that you are on page 11. Here's 11 down here. Make sure you're on page 11. All right. So question number 1 says, what is the paper about? Is it about coronavirus, Stress Awareness Month, or Greta Thunberg and Earth? Take a second to talk with whoever is working with you and find the answer to that question. All right, so what was our paper about? Our paper was about Greta Thunberg and Earth. Great. All right, let's see. Now we have to go to question number 2. I'm going to put that there and cover up question 3 so that our brains do not get tricked. All right. Question number 2 says, who, remember that's a person, who gives speeches about climate change? Is it Greta Thunberg, Aretha Franklin, or Abraham Lincoln? Take this time to pause the video and talk with whoever's working with you to find out that answer. All right, so who gives speeches about climate change? Greta Thunberg. So you're going to use your writing tool to circle this picture. All right, we have one more question, question number 3. I'm going to move that up so our brains don't get tricked. All right, where? Remember, that is a place. Where was Greta Thunberg born? Was she born in Sweden? Was she born in Israel? or was she born in Ecuador? So I'm going to go back to that page because this is a harder question. All right, where was she born? Look at page 2. Where was she born? When you found the answer, go back to your review page and circle the correct one. So right here on page 2, it says Greta was born in Sweden. So if we go back to that review page, where was Greta Thunberg born? She was born in Sweden. Awesome. So what I want you to do, I want you to look at your paper and make sure that you have all of the same answers that Miss Bankett does. All right, great. And let's go to our think page, page 12. What is your favorite kind of weather? Now, before school ended, we actually did a survey, and some friends had already discussed with me and their classmates what their favorite weather was. And if you got a chance to do the weather and climate science lesson, then there was a survey in there too for you to complete. So, what is your favorite weather? Miss Bankett's favorite weather, I'm going to use my favorite color, orange. I love when it is sunny outside. Sometimes it's nice and warm when it's sunny, and I just love the bright sun to beam down on my skin. All right, before we finish, let's look at our joke page. All right, here we go. So, knock, knock. You would say, who's there? Place. Place who? Place help protect Earth? That one was okay, but the place was supposed to be please. All right, so before we end, let's go back to our communication board. And what did we read about? We read about Greta Thunberg and Earth. And we know that Greta wants to protect the Earth, and she thinks that people can help protect the Earth too, right? And climate change can be very harmful for the Earth. But Earth Day is coming up on April 22nd, and that is when you can learn about different ways to help protect the Earth. All right, guys, and that is the end of our story.